Hey guys, what up? It's Toby. I promised you this video a couple months ago, but my editor vanished on me halfway through the project. So we got it good, it's cut, but it's not perfect. I figured better late than never, better something than nothing. So I hope it helps you, and it still does give you a really good insight onto how I made 30,000 bucks, 20K profit in a single month this past December.
Hey, for the best experience, pause, and then pause again, and pause again. And let's begin.
Once upon a time, there was a young dude with a neck brace who didn't know how he was going to make money. He got denied by the government for disability insurance, and he couldn't move out of his family's household unless he started making some income. So he stumbled upon Amazon KDP. And if you watched my last video, you'll know, hooray, that little worried fella is me. And I shared my first year experience in the last video. This video, we're going to talk about the most recent development, which is my first taste of success. So if you want to learn how to succeed in Amazon KDP and also have a good time doing it alongside someone who's still figuring it out himself, then let me introduce you to how I made 20K profit in 1 month on one puzzle book. It's a fully transparent behind the curtain experience to help us thrive together, and like I said, to have some fun doing it. And just so you know, no, this book in the background is not my book, so don't go looking for it. That's not gonna help you in any way. So this video is broken down into 4 phases. I organized it so it'd be a little more digestible for you. It is gonna be a deep dive because I really wanna be of value to you, and having a couple quick tips isn't really gonna help you. You're gonna wanna know the story to inspire you and give you practical insights so that you can also find success as a KDP publisher. First up, this phase I call the work begins, the work abandoned. This was the part of the journey where I began to make the book that would end up making me fat stacks. So right before I published this book, this was my last month before I published it. It was 1,249 bucks in September. Then we bumped that ahead to October, and it went from about 1,500 to 2,500. And you can see at the end of the month is when it started to really peak. November was our first 10K month, which was huge for me. Now the problem was it was still only like 4.5K profit. I wasn't very profitable at this time, and if you watch my previous video, you'll know how margins was a huge part of the process of actually making money. So we'll talk about that at the end of this video, how you can make much better margin and start to see profit. And in December, we did 30K in revenue, and 20K of that was profit. So ultimately, we had about a 65% margin, and let's get into how it all happened. Let's start with part 1. The work begins, the work abandoned. So this takes us back to May of 2022, about 5 months before the book was actually published. I had just spent some serious deep thinking because I was at the bottom of the pit emotionally after just having a horrible April. I had just lost $500 net. Like I had spent more on ads than I had made. And I was like, why am I doing so bad? I shouldn't be an entrepreneur. I was convinced that it wasn't for me. But then I read this book, and let me show you. This book is called $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi, How to Make Offers So Good People Feel Stupid Saying No. And it single-handedly changed my life. I took a month. I called it my metamorphosis month. It was a month where I realized I am the bottleneck in my business, meaning I am the problem. And unless I fix myself and I learn, I get educated, and I apply the things I'm learning, we're never gonna make money. I can't outsource myself to some other VA. I prided myself significantly on hiring other people to do technical work, but I can't outsource myself. You can't outsource yourself. We are our most important asset in our business, and our education is the #1 factor of our success. I do believe that. And it's a really good thing I started making some money, because it was around this time that things really hit the fan with my health. And here's a few pictures to help you see what that was like for me. 5 years ago, I had a whiplash injury from a freak accident. Someone hugged me really hard. They were running, I was rotating, rotational whiplash, messed up all the ligaments in my top 7 vertebrae, and has completely thrown the course of my life off track than I thought it would be. So here's a picture of me in a hospital gown about to get a brain MRI a few months ago. Here was some scans done to see what the instability is on my neck. You can even see, like up here, my atlas, which is your first vertebrae, it rotates all the way up till it hits my skull. And here we are at the pit of it all when everything hit the fan and I had to stop producing books. There was a time when I was in bed for almost all the time for 3 months straight, and that was June, July, August. So during this time, there was even a 7-day period where I didn't get out of bed. I went to the bathroom, I think twice, but other than that, I literally had to pee in a bottle. It was very humiliating. I was spoon-fed my meals. I couldn't move my head at all. I was spoon-fed smoothies and soups by my grandma so that I could survive. It was not a good time to be alive, but because I had Amazon KDP, it was passive. And I made 10K in revenue from my bed. I didn't do anything and I still made 10K in revenue. About 4K of that was profit. And as you know in the last video, net profit for the year was still only 3K, but you get the idea. You can make money doing this passively, even if you're bedridden, as I was. Here's me after a procedure that I had done on my neck. And here's me with my funky glasses, prism glasses. So now you have context for where I was. It was a hard time, but it was a good time. And I focused on my body and I focused on my spiritual well-being and a lot of other things where it was terrific in different ways. I'm very grateful for the experience, although it has been very difficult. And now that takes us to part 2, where it became time to work again on my book project. And now to part 2, which is when the work continues and the soul is destroyed. This was a really rough time for me. So I just imagine you get out of bed for 3 months, you finally you're free, you crunch your numbers and you realize, great, I made 25K in revenue and I made 3K in profit. That was my whole first year of publishing. That was truly rock bottom for me. That was the soul destroyed. I'll show you one picture real quick. This was my journal session immediately after having that terrible experience of calculating my net for the year. I wrote, grind time, now what? Feels like this moment is a major crossroads in my entrepreneurial journey. I feel like a loser, a poser, a child. I feel like what I'm doing right now is futile, hopelessly small and unprofitable. Like to stay in this niche is to not grow up. Or maybe this is where I push past self-doubt, self-consciousness to find my golden goose. I want to quit and work for somebody else, which for an entrepreneur, that's like a ridiculous thing to say. But is that really the path for me? I think this is the dip where you buy. I'm not convinced yet, but last time I felt this hopeless was in June, and we all know what was just around the bend. So I get back to work, and in October, we produced and published 4 books. My mindset was, Toby, don't focus on the profit at all, focus on the process. Okay, and now let's move to phase 3, where the work is published and the questions continue. Now, around this time, I made a friend. We'll just call him Brian. His name's not Brian, but you know, his name's Brian for this video. And Brian is an incredibly successful guy. He runs the world's largest CBD and hemp and psychedelic marketing agency. I don't do those things, but he's really good at marketing. So Brian came over one day. I was hosting a fall party at my house. We had chili, cider, fantastic Mr. Fox. It was a terrific night. And at the party, one of my books surfaced somewhere. Somebody saw it and they were like, oh, what's this book? And I was like, oh, that's my book. And they're like, what do you mean it's your book? They're like, oh, I was like, oh, it's a book that I publish on my company. And they're like, you have a company? And when Brian heard about this, he was adamant. He's like, dude, do you want to succeed? Are you scared of like succeeding? Why don't all of your friends know? Like, they can't support you if you don't know. You know, subconsciously, I've been afraid of success. So I was afraid. There was a fear of success. And I just wonder for you, is there a fear of success? Is that part of what's keeping you back from being successful? Are you unsure of what you would do with $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million? Because until I got over that hurdle, I wasn't ready to start making money. And it was just in the nick of time. So thank you, Brian, for your help in this. If you're watching this, you know who you are. So about a year ago, I started having some success and I had a huge problem with cash flow. So I said, if this book is doing as well as it is right now, it was a seasonal book, but it was making me money. And for the first time ever, I was like, oh, I can actually make money online. So I got an investor with somebody who I'm close with, and they gave me 10K for a 12.5% equity in the business. This allowed me to have capital. And capital was huge. So I need to preface by saying my success did not come slowly but surely. It was a result of having somebody give me money. But ultimately, I was the one who asked for it. I put myself out there and I came up with a contract, I came up with terms, and I came up with a fiscal planning, and I said, here's what I'd like to do. Now, this is a tricky one. For some of us, price is a really hard thing. So for most of us, typically, we'll look at the marketplace, we'll say, okay, everyone's selling their book at $6.99 or $12.99. And we'll say, okay, what is a reasonable price? What's everyone pricing based on? And then we'll come in somewhere around $6.99, or maybe we'll go $6.97 or even $5.99. We want to make a better product with more content at a cheaper price, right? We'll go $11.99 and we'll think we're doing ourselves a service. Well, after my first year of publishing, I'm telling you, do not play this game. Do not play the race to zero. I started to rank my book. It is a good thing to rank your book cheaply. So I started ranking my book around, let's say, $8.99. I don't remember the exact number, but it was around $8.99, okay? After about 2 weeks, my book was ranked at 12K BSR. Now, if you know anything about what that means, my book was the 12,000th most popular book in the entire United States bookstore, which was pretty cool. And at that time, I also had a bestsellers tag. And I was like, oh shoot, I don't want to mess with perfection, because to me that was perfection, right? I'm making well over $100 a day, and I'm like, I gotta keep this up. But my royalty at $8.99, what's your royalty? You're only making like $3 or $4 depending on how many pages are in your book. So if I'm selling, you know, I don't remember what the exact number was, but let's say I'm selling 25 copies at $3 or $4, that's like $75 to $100, right? But what happens if you bump your price from $8.99 to $12.99? Well, each dollar you increase is 60 cents added into your pocket, direct profit. So you add from $8.99 to $12.99, that's 60 cents times 4, that's $2.40. So now instead of having a royalty of every time you get a sale, you're making $3, you're making $5.40. Or instead of $4, you're making $6.40, right? So instead of 3 to 4, let's just call it 6 even. We'll say we make 25 sales at $6, that's $150. I know it's getting a little messy here, but that would be $150 instead of $75 to $100. It's amazing what your price can do. So ultimately, I decided, let's take the risk. So here's the thing about why you should increase your price in many cases. One, we are not scamming people. We are not scamming people. This is assuming you're making really good books that actually help people. Entrepreneurs aren't out to get people. We're not trying to trick people. We're here to solve problems. And if we solve problems for people, whether that be entertainment, relationships, financial, health, people will pay for it. So make a really good book and then charge for it. Charge for it. Pick a number you like. Pick a number that works for you, not for the customer. Because if it's valuable enough book, the customer will buy it, whether it's $8.99 or $12.99. Okay, so when I bumped my price, let's see what happens, to $12.99, I went from being 12K BSR to less than a week later, I maintained my sales and increased them all the way up to 4K BSR. And it was at this point that I said, I think this can work. So if you want to know what happens next, stay tuned. I'll get into some more of the nitty-gritty for you. The problem was, I had made a big mistake. And the big mistake was that I was using some gray hat strategies. Do you know what gray hat means? Gray hat basically means that you're a little bit edgy with playing with the terms of service, okay? And what I did was, you know how I had that bestseller tag? My bestseller tag was in a category that wasn't really a great fit for my book. So in other words, you could have a book that's about finances or stocks, and then you could nest it under the category of like art history, right? That's not a direct fit in any way, shape, or form. There may be very low competition in the art history category, so you can rank as the bestseller, but Amazon is wise to this and often they will catch up to you. So this actually happened to me in the past where I had a book that I was being a little sneaky with and I had it ranked for ice skating. There's a category called ice skating books, and I only needed to sell like 5 copies a day to get the bestseller tag. So I did it, and my book started selling much better because I had the bestseller tag. Problem was, my book was autumn theme. It was not an ice skating book. So I get an email from Amazon one day, and they're like, yo bro, what you doing? You got a strike on your account. They said, don't do that. We're just giving you a warning. I don't think they gave me an official strike, but they said this is like a warning, don't do this again. And so since then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. But problem was, for this book, I was a little on edge. It wasn't this bad. It wasn't like autumn ice skating, but it was like they could get me on this if they want to. And I don't want to risk that, especially because I have an investor. So I said to myself, let me play this game right. Let me do this the right way. So I said to myself, let me play this game right and do this the right way. And I actually went ahead. I was running low on funds because my ads were converting at an insane rate. My ACOS, break-even ACOS, was about 38%. If you don't know what that means, we'll talk about that in another video. My break-even ACOS was about 38%. And guess what? My ACOS at the time was close to 30%, meaning I'm making significant money on my ads. If I spend, let's just give an example of like, let's say I spend $2 on ads, that brings in $3.50 in revenue, okay? So that means that for every dollar I spend, I make like $1.75. At that point, it's dumb not to spend more money on ads because every dollar you spend is another dollar you're making. So what I did was I went out and I crunched the numbers, and as a creative person, I hated doing this. I hated it. But I had to do it because I was gonna go back to my investor and I asked him for another 8K. I said, can I have another 8K, please, Mr. Sir? I showed him my numbers, I showed him my projections, and he said, that's supposed to be a thumbs up. Let's do it. That 8K was budgeted for ads and for one more thing, for coaching. Now, something I noticed about some of the most successful people that I follow and that I've gotten to hear podcasts from and things like that is no matter how successful they get, they almost always continue to get coached and they pay for it. They pay really good money for it. And I wondered why. Why do you think that is? I'm not positive, but in my experience, I just paid $6,000 to get coached. Like a few months ago, I paid for it. And here's what it did for me. It gave me confidence, and confidence allowed me to make bold moves, calculated bold moves. So calculated risk that brought me big payback. I said to myself, if I pay $6K for coaching that lasts a year and I make $6K back in profit at any point, I make my money back. And based on the way I was going with this book and the way I know that I'm gonna stick with my business, I knew it would pay itself back. So I said, let me do this. And I sent it, and I'm very glad I did. So let's get to the next part. Before I go any further, I really just wanna emphasize how important education is. Everything I've learned has come from either the Royalty Hero course that I take with Sean Dolwitt, the people in the course who have answered my questions and been in my mastermind, who I communicate with regularly and we share insights and help each other grow, or from other miscellaneous YouTube videos that I have watched from other people teaching me what they have learned. We cannot skip this shortcut of education. And so if you're skeptical about ads, you're not really sure how to do it, you're scared of losing money on ads, this video right here should be really useful for you, okay?
This video is going to make the middle of people.
That's the one. So at this point, guys, we had our first, near the end of November, we had our first $400 day. It was 420 bucks and 67 cents. That was a huge confidence boost for me. And at this point, I had predicted that I was gonna make 10K in revenue in December and 5K, I think it was, in profit, which would have been total records for me, at least in profit. I did 10K in November, as you saw. And as you now know, December was 30K. So we blew that out of the water. How did we do that? Well, let's get to phase 4. This is December, okay? This was when everything started to really click and I started to think, ooh, maybe I am good at business. Maybe this is for me. And hopefully you can learn a few things to give you that inspiration to keep going to. All right, so influencer reviews. Basically, Amazon is trying to make Amazon a lot more influencer friendly, a lot more conversational, a lot more shoppable. So what they're doing is they're having influencers do live streams and marketing videos for products that earns commissions for the influencers and also makes Amazon more of that creator atmosphere. So if you see any video that says earns commissions, that means that they are part of the Amazon influencer program and that they're gonna make money based on the video that they posted on a product. Now you can get influencers to do this on your products for free because they wanna earn commissions. And the brilliant thing is, as the publisher, we don't lose any money when this happens. Amazon is the one who pays them. So you make the same royalty the whole way. It's a no-brainer. Try to get influencer marketers. As long as they do a good job and fit your demographic, go for it. And the way you can get influencer reviews, there's Facebook groups. There's also this one website that I used called Grandy. It was a little bit weird, but it worked for me and I got, I think, 2 of my influencer reviews from there. So I recommend checking them out. Let's rapid fire the last bit. At this point, I got another 5K funding from my investor because we were running out of money and we're making money at an insane rate. I remember having a $700 day and being like, oh my goodness, this is for real. And the crazy thing is money doesn't satisfy. I was numb to it. It was like, okay, 700 bucks. Okay, what is that supposed to mean? It's crazy. And I imagine from what I've heard from other people, if that became 7 million in one day, it would still feel that way. At this point, it became really fun because I stopped being a questioning myself kind of guy all the time, and I started knowing exactly what to do. Having the coach plus seeing success and having confidence. And the other thing I did was I set a really hard stop time for work of 5 p.m. I was really struggling to be a human because I was working really hard. I was prioritizing my business. And there was one evening where I was at home in Pennsylvania for Christmas, and my siblings were upstairs playing a video game, Mario Baseball, on the TV, on Wii. And I could hear them having fun, but I was grinding. I was actually making a YouTube video, which is my most popular video now. And at the time I was like, no, I'm gonna finish this. I'll go upstairs soon. A few hours later, I go upstairs, I go get some food, I sit down to play with them, and my sister Tessa's like, well, I'm going to sleep. Like, this is my last game. I'm like, no, no. Like, I wanted to play, but it was 11 p.m. and I'd been working all day. So what I decided to do was I implemented this 5 p.m. stop time. My friend Dan recommended I do it. And I found that magically all the work that needs to get done gets done before 5 p.m. if you set a hard stop time. So that's what I've been doing ever since, and it works. And so we ran these ads all the way through the roof until the end of December. At December 23rd at midnight, I cut the ads and I tapped out of business because after the 23rd, people aren't going to be buying books because Christmas is way too soon. When I returned and opened up my dashboard, I was met with a very pleasant surprise. $30,000, $619.03. I'm incredibly blessed, and truly it was all off of one book. And if you really want to see how much of it was that one book, take a look at the graph. All that light blue, that's the one book. And all that tiny sliver on top of the other colors, that's the other books. So I made almost $30,000 off of a single book. And as far as advertising cost goes, you can see December was less than $10K. So overall, my total profit was $20,711.49. And I probably had about $150 in other costs, like a tiny bit of labor for my team and a subscription to Puppy and other things like that. But we're well over 20K, and that was incredible. And if you want to know the lessons that I learned, I've got a little checklist that I'm going to walk you through now. So hopefully you can apply to your business and start to see some of this success for yourself. Let's do it together. Guys, and to be super transparent here, January has not looked nearly as good as December, as you would expect. Christmas is insane, but we're still doing well. At this pace, we'll hit 3K in royalties, and about half of that will be profit. And I've done maybe an hour of work total this month on this book. So been working on building out the brand to make this more sustainable, because what if you got 3 books doing 3K a month? That's pretty nice. So that's what I'm working on right now. And then here's the last section, 7 lessons to help us thrive and have fun doing it. So first lesson is Aesop was right. Who's Aesop? Not Aesop Rocky, Aesop, the guy from back in the day who made those fables. Aesop was right. In other words, the tortoise beats the hare. For the first year of publishing, all I wanted to do was get as many books as I could out. Guys, there's going to be 5 billion reasons for us to quit, but the tortoise beats the hare. So if you're bedridden for 3 months, whatever it is, I hope that you keep going. Lesson 2, good marketing beats good work. Do both. I'm a huge believer in this one. This is a huge lesson. Guys, I will not stop saying it. Read this book. This was another fantastic book, but it's optional reading. These helped me significantly increase my income. This one is a lot fatter, as you can tell, so if you only read one, read this one. I keep hearing from people who are successful in business saying that marketing wins. You could have the same exact product, you could have a terrible product with an excellent package, and you could outsell something with a terrible package and an excellent product. Now, ideally, you have both. You have both the best product on the market and the best marketing on the market. But if you can only pick one, pick really good marketing. But we can't just do good marketing, because then we're scamming people. So we also have to make a really good product. So if we do both, we win. Lesson number 3 is that price is just a number, so pick one you like. I said this earlier, but price, as you've seen in my story, is a number. And people will pay if it's a really good product and it's communicated well to them what it's going to do for them. They will pay for it. So pick a number that works for you. I couldn't survive on $324 per royalty. My business just wasn't making any money. But if I'm making $750 per sale, I can survive. And not only that, I can have the mental capacity to start making even better books. I'll have the resources and the brain space not to be stressed, but to start serving my customer better. So pick a number that works for you. And by the way, this book talks about it. Alex Hormozi is my dad. Lesson 4 is your dashboard is your enemy. Education and hard work are good friends. So check your dashboard once a day. I would check it 5 times, 10 times, 20 times a day. I would check it more than I actually worked. And it's an instant gratification little hit to make us feel like, ooh, we made another sale, we made another sale. But it doesn't help us grow at all. So many of us keep rereading chapters 1, 2, and 3 of our story. But what if we focused our time on writing chapters 4, 5, and 6? What would happen? So that's the idea. Check your dashboard once a day. Instead, spend your time getting educated. For me, that was ads and working hard. There is no substitute for working hard. These will be your good friends. Lesson 5, you can't hire someone else to be you. For small businesses like ours, we are, whether we like it or not, the number one factor on whether or not we succeed. If you got a big corporation like McDonald's, whoever's in charge of McDonald's doesn't have to be involved for the business to succeed. They have franchises, they have systems set up, everything runs on autopilot. But for someone who's not established yet, like us, someone who's still figuring things out, we have to be grown-ups. Put on that tie and get to work. If we don't put on our tie and get to work, no one else will. We can't hire someone else to be us. And the biggest thing that we can't hire out is education and application. I've talked about this a million times, but I believe it to my core. Education and application back and forth. Learn things. This is why I highly recommend getting a course and or coaching if you can pay for it. And then 2, application. Put in the work. Don't check your dashboard. Let's put in the work. Get educated and apply. Lesson 6, learn ads. You think you understand them, but you don't. I've talked about this before. Guys, there are so many basic things about ads that I had no idea about because I didn't have a coach. I didn't take a course. Once I started taking the course, you saw my ACOS drop down to the 20s, 24% ACOS for the month of December, which is insane. I would literally spend $1 and get $2 back. That's an insane return on investment. Insane. At that point, all you want to do is just keep throwing money at it, right? So if you learn ads, it will pay you back for a long, long, long time in really, really wonderful ways. But if we don't learn ads, sad day. We're going to be out of business. Marketing, baby. So that's lesson 6. And then lastly, your first idea might be your best one. One thing that I did not mention at the beginning of this video was that this book, my best-selling book that made me all this money, it was the very first idea I had in publishing 2 years ago. I never published it. I never brought it to completion. But when I did, it finally paid off. So don't second guess yourself too much. It's better to make a book and have it fail than to never have made it at all, because you have the potential in your hands and in your brain to have a month that could change your life. Okay? Oh, and also one more thing. If you have any ideas for videos that you think would be useful to you in your publishing journey, please let me know below, because I'd like to make videos that actually are useful to people. So when you let me know, it helps me serve you better. If this story-based video was very useful for you, let me know that too. I can cut all the stories, or I can keep the stories and give you more details. I'm open to anything right now. I'm just figuring out who I am and what I'm doing and how I can serve people. So for now, that's it, and I'll catch you in the next one. My name's Toby DeMoss, and I'll see you soon. Peace. Thank you.